Historical Landmark Preservation Commission. How can I direct your call?
Yeah, hi. I'd like to declare my house as a historical landmark.
All right. And what can I say is the historical event so our research team can confirm?
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know?
No clue.
Okay, sir. Well, I'm a bit confused.
Well, I don't know the house's history, but I know something happened here.
Uh-huh. Would you, care to elaborate?
Oh, yeah, sure. My house is haunted.
Ew, what was that?
I said my house is haunted?
Like, haunted.
Yeah, like there's a ghost or something here.
Sir, this is the Historical Landmark Preservation Commission.
Right, that's why I called you. Did I call the wrong place?
Sir, we do not enjoy prank calls here.
No prank. It's haunted. You know, doors opening, weird footsteps and noises. You know, like haunted.
Sir, would you hold, please?
Sure thing. You know, I can't exactly blame this guy for not believing me. After all, there are a ton of people who don't believe in hauntings and the paranormal and ghosts and all of that stuff, and that's totally fine. On one hand, I can see where they're coming from. There are so many businesses out there that want to claim that they're haunted just to make a quick buck. So many haunted hotels and haunted buildings and haunted barbershops or whatever. It's a shame, really, because every once in a while you do find somewhere that legitimately feels haunted. You're in a room, you turn off the lights, and you can't quite explain it, but it just feels like something somewhere is staring back at you. The question is that a good or a bad thing? Well, that's one of the things I love about tonight's feature. It deals with one man finding out that some places can't let go of the past, just like some people can't. I'm Ryan Reed, and this is Fright Films. 1408 is a 2007 film based on a Stephen King story of the same name. Please, don't click away. I know sometimes it can be really hit or miss with Stephen King movies, but I promise you, this is a good one. The film was directed by Michael Hofstrom, who also directed The Right with Anthony Hopkins, which I thought was passable, and he also directed Escape Plan with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I didn't see that. It's a shame that more people don't talk about 1408 because it's a fantastically executed funhouse film. It opens on an atmospheric, classic horror, dark and stormy night. But then it quickly shifts tones when we're introduced to a couple of hotel owners trying to sell Mike, played by John Cusack, on how haunted their hotel really is. This tonal shift is balanced really well, and it represents how the film handles its material. It's a classic, fun, spooky horror film, but it also brings in some modern elements. In fact, the film takes some time to get going. I checked. The first real scare isn't until about 30 minutes into the film. See, it allows the film to breathe so it can set up proper tension and atmosphere before throwing us into madness with Cusack as our only anchor. And speaking of John Cusack, he plays Mike Inslin, a writer who travels to different reportedly haunted locations to write about them for his series of books. The problem is, Mike doesn't really believe in ghosts. In fact, Mike doesn't believe in much anymore. Early on, we get some hints that something tragic has happened to Mike, and it's revealed more and more as the film goes on. Unfortunately, it's not the most original of plot points. Still, Cusack carries it along with a really grounded, solid, heartbreaking performance. And that's a good thing, because for most of the film, Mike is alone. I would say probably 75% of the film is spent with Mike by himself, locked in room 1408. But I'm getting ahead of myself. See, Mike gets a mysterious postcard from the Dolphin Hotel in New York telling him not to stay in room 1408. Well, through a series of events, of course, Mike ends up in room 1408, and his world around him starts to unravel. Like I said, most of the movie is Mike alone dealing with the supernatural. Mike is also made to be a likable character, which makes him dealing with everything that happens in room 1408 all the more tense. Well, Mike does have a lot of overused character traits in the film. Here they actually are presented a bit more well-rounded. Mike is a writer who drinks, but here he's never represented as a pure alcoholic like a lot of Stephen King characters are. He can be rude or sarcastic at times, but he's never represented as a true jerk. This may not seem like a lot, but all of those subtle differences help to elevate the film. Even things that should feel unoriginal here are given new life. Remember in the early 2000s when every movie had the same color palette? It was always amber with a blue contrast. Michael Bay films pretty much fueled their cinematography on this, like a guy with glow sticks at a techno dance party who's just downed his 5th can of Red Bull. But here in 1408, that color palette is used with purpose. Shocking, I know. In my opinion, the ambers represent that something is burning beneath the surface, both in the room and in Mike's past. Slowly, though, the film switches to a blue hue, which reveals a coldness, sometimes literally, that is eating away at everything. The film also shies away from the modern-day jump scare. You know, a loud noise that happens when something jumps out that isn't tied to the actual world itself. I swear, it's like ghosts and killers are followed by the entire string section of an orchestra these days. While there are a few scares that fall into this category, most of the scares are earned and grounded with real-world sounds from in the movie itself. For example, when the alarm clock goes off for a scare, it is a song from within the alarm clock that sounds like it's coming from the alarm clock, not the score boosted to make people jump in their seats. It's grounded within the world's reality. Things like this help make the film stand out. There are some other things I'd like to point out quickly too. Like when you see ghosts in this movie, they have this filter effect on them that makes them look like a film reel from the time they died. The use of negative space and central framing creates a true sense of unease. The film jumps from unease to fun horror and then back again gracefully. And, without spoiling it, there's a section in the third act of the film that could have been really unoriginal, and it commits to this idea for a really long time until it pulls the rug out from under us. Oh, and Samuel L. Jackson plays the hotel's manager, and well, he kind of just plays Samuel L. Jackson like he does in a lot of movies. Come on, it's Samuel L. Jackson. Dude is awesome! There really isn't much to complain about here. Sure, the film isn't always original, and there are a few lame jump scares. Oh, and there is this one scene where Mike turns on his computer and the computer goes, "Good evening, Mike." No one has a talking computer like that. Stop putting it in movies. It was 2007, Siri wasn't even invented yet. Still, these things aren't enough to sink the film. It is so good at being what it is, which is a haunted house thrill ride. Now, there are 2 cuts to 1408. There's the theatrical cut and what's been labeled as the director's cut. Most of these differences are minimal, with 2 big exceptions. The director's cut goes into more details about Mike's father, which is great for character development. The other change is the ending, which I'm not as big a fan of. Without spoiling anything, the theatrical cut ending follows Mike's story circle perfectly. His character arc comes to the proper conclusion. The director's cut ending throws all of that out the window for a more down ending that doesn't feel in tone with the rest of the movie or with Mike's story. I can see where they were going with it, but it just doesn't work. And apparently, I'm not the only one who agrees. In the director's commentary, director Michael Hofstrom is quoted as saying, "I have to admit, I liked the ending we had. I think there's a lot of layers in the ending that we had in the theatrical edition." He also goes on to talk to some of the writers about how they probably should have called it a special edition instead of a director's cut. I think the thing that bums me out most is that the theatrical cut is not easy to come by, and so most people are only going to have access to the director's cut. The only way you can see the theatrical cut is either on regular single-disc DVD or on the 2-disc edition DVD that came out that had both the director's cut and the theatrical cut, which is great. But when they released it to Blu-ray, the Blu-ray only includes the version that is the director's cut. And on top of that, on iTunes, on Amazon, and on other streaming services, you can only watch the director's cut. And then, on top of that, on TV, they've often only shown the director's cut. What? And I have no problem with the director's cut existing. Where I do have a problem is that the theatrical cut is not readily available for people who want to see it. And really, you should try to see that version because it does have the better ending, in my opinion. Even with all that aside, 1408 is a very strong film. It's not the most scary, and at times it's not the most original, but it's a really solid movie. So solid that I'm surprised people don't really bring it up. I highly recommend it. And if you can, please try to see the theatrical cut. Or at least Google the theatrical ending and make the choice yourself. Just don't miss 1408.
Sir, are you still there?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I just spoke with our team, and they said they cannot declare a landmark historical based on make-believe ghosts. Ah, I see. I'm Ryan Reed. Go watch a movie.